We're trying to live.
Okay, we are live streaming. Here we go. Miss Glenda, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. First, I want to, of course, thank God for our being able to be here today. Then secondly, certainly extend most appreciative, humble thanks to Pastor Kevin Brooks for allowing us to be in this space, for providing us this space to certainly gather today to share, educate, learn, and then process and utilize, right? So first of all, we'll do introductions. I'm Glenda Hicks. I am co-founder of our grassroots organization, 21st Century Memphis or Bus.
Yes.
And of course, here you have our focus, our purpose, basically in a nutshell, what we're all about.
Yes.
And my right is Ray Bauer, also our grand co-founder of 21st Century Memphis or Bus. So I just want to share that, you know, I always say that it was God's leading that brought the two of us together. It wasn't
absolutely.
I had waited some years, and because of her insight and saying, you know, enough is enough, we were blessed to connect, to meet online, actually, through the Nextdoor app, and from that, our organization was born.
That's right.
Okay. So we're just going to do quick introductions around the room, if that's okay.
I'll follow you. Yep.
So.
Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm very passionate about highly technical stuff, and I'm pretty familiar with the MLGW enterprise, and I'm a fairly vocal critic and advocate, as is appropriate.
Absolutely.
I'm here to learn.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ursula Robinson, and I'm just here for support primarily of my sister.
Good afternoon. My name is Glenda, and I'm just a concerned citizen, and just wanting to get information out about with regard to discounts available for solid waste for senior citizens that has been in effect for 2 decades, and we're just now finding out about it.
That's
so
right.
I'm here because I'm a concerned citizen and want to learn more.
And of course, member of the organization,
Yes.
Aaron. And
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. You know who I am. I've been introduced. So welcome to Providence. Open for us to organize and mobilize around important issues that impact us all. And thankful for you all who started this initiative to make sure that the community was informed on issues that are very pertinent to their development.
Absolutely. The city, the county. Hello. Hi.
I'm the charter members here at Providence, and welcome to the meeting and all the information that we will receive today. And thank you for coming.
Fabulous. Welcome. All right, Glenda, take it away.
so we will get started. I will just say, certainly, we just knew that the place was going to be packed today, right? Because this information is certainly crucial and important. It's important that we understand what's our purpose here for today. MLGW Billing and Meter 101. So in a nutshell, how you are billed, what encompasses, what makes up your MLGW bill. So we've done introduction. So as I said, what makes up your MLGW bill? First of all, you have metered services, which everyone who has a light, gas, and water bill has. Metered services entail your electric, gas, and water. So some of us have all three. Some may only have electric if your house is all electric, and then of course water. and our unmetered services, which are flat services, make sure we get that understood. That means there is a set fee for those services. So there is a flat monthly fee for unmetered services, okay?
Sewer.
So we'll start with our electric service. The analog mechanical meters. That's the meter that we had before we went to digital or smart meters, okay? So the analog mechanical meter. And it has the disc that would rotate to move the dials, okay? And this is actually for those of us who did not allow MLGW to come in and change out our meters, and we kept our analog meter or mechanical meter. This is actually the meter that I still have, because I said no, I didn't want smart meters, okay? So this works, these dials move in opposite directions and determine the amount of usage that you have. But you can still track it daily. If you went out in the morning and read these, and then in the evening, then you could determine like how much you have used in electricity or kilowatt hours that during that time frame, okay? Then as we advanced technologically, we went to digital meters, okay? So this particular meter, it flashes your read. The mechanics are inside that supposedly work to record or tabulate your usage, your kilowatt hour usage. It flashes zeros and then your read. Zeros and then your read. And this is, it's constantly flashing. Zeros and then your read. So by the same process, you could go in the AM, record your reading, and then 8 hours later come in and get that read. And take the last read and subtract the earlier read, and that's going to tell you how much you've used within that time frame. So as far as smart is concerned, there are mechanisms that are attached that track this information, or these trackers are actually transmitted, okay? So the way that Light, Gas, and Water is operating, everything basically is uploading. You have, say, a digital or a smart water meter, you have a smart gas meter, and then everything's uploaded here and then transmitted through the lines, is how it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay. Next.
Next, yes. So again, analog or mechanical, this is the gas, okay? You see how it has the dials, right? This is my current gas meter.
Yes.
So in the same way, you don't see the disc that moves like you do on the electric, but the functionality is the same. And you have the dials that are tracking as you have usage. Okay, on the gas, this is your digital gas meter. I know there, when there was this massive problem with delayed billing, we were told that it was a device within this operation, the mechanics that are behind the scene that failed, which was a little plastic ticker that allowed the dials to move as usage was tracked, okay? And that little plastic device, cheap device, failed. Therefore, it stopped tracking like it was supposed to. Pastor Rosanna.
Where, who, was that documented, written down anywhere, or who provided that information about the rationale for the mistake?
Like gas and water.
Did they put it in writing?
They presented it to the board,
They
if I remember.
presented it to the board.
And then
they
city council.
presented it in several public meetings.
Yes.
That was the reason. Initially, they thought it was something else.
I asked because it's something I think we need to kind of really go back and investigate, because I recently discovered that public outcry around, or concern around XAI not paying that bill was primarily not their fault, but it was a direct result of what this issue that we have here. They didn't say anything, but they kind of saved face, I guess, with MLGW's fact that they can do that with a corporation, they do it also with citizens. So just FYI, and I want to try to research that some more, to see
Okay.
how we kind of figure that, get to the root of that.
Can I just say that I think that might have been a scapegoat that was used? Because I'm not sure what gas service they have at that facility. In terms of, I know electrical.
Did you hear that also?
I'm thinking back, I don't know that I heard that in itself, there
Right.
was a billing issue supposedly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it had to do with a transmission breakdown and not the actual failing of this meter.
Well, I guess they were saying the issue again is the billing. They
Yes.
have a major fundamental billing issue.
They did say that it was a billing issue.
And so that, I just want to kind of ask that question as I kind of do my research on that, because there's some, I guess this is kind of the issue, so, go ahead.
Okay? So, one thing I want to make clear, this device now works like your odometer, and that was not. It was more like it wasn't on the odometer setting prior to, and I'm trying to think, was it more like on like when you have your coding on your, say, safes or whatever, I'm not sure that that's set up on the same setting as far as the rotaries that you move. So it has something to do with how that's set up as opposed to the odometer setting, how an odometer works. And so mechanically, what's actually moving the numbers is the issue. So that supposedly has been resolved.
There was, do you remember the supplier that they said they were working with to replace those registers?
Yes,
Honeywell.
Honeywell.
That's
Honeywell.
right, big company.
Honeywell.
Which is they use lots of plastic. It's their oil company at heart, in metering. I can't remember, Honeywell's thermostats maybe, but the it was something about this piece here, and I guess Doug told us, and I can't recall if it was at a board meeting, but I think it was in an engineers meeting, that another reason for bad readings was a pressure issue within the gas network.
Interesting.
Because those all of them work on pressure, something analogous to pressure, right? The electric meter is voltage, which is analogous to pressure, and that is actual pressure. There's no battery in there that runs that meter. It robs energy from the pressure in the network, the gas network. But when there was not enough pressure in the line, it would sabotage the metering process that was exacerbated by whatever mechanical issue that Honeywell.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I never heard.
I distinctly remember that came out of Doug's mouth.
And was he saying that was on MLGW side, or was it the gas supplier side?
Well, so they were trying to blame the
Gas supply.
device, you know,
Oh.
and whoever supplied those meters, but in the narrative, he talks about pressure. So, well, why is pressure? I remember saying to myself, why would you bring up pressure if it's purely a mechanical issue? Are you saying that this is something that can be overcome if the line pressure was a little higher?
Is that what he was suggesting?
Well, that's what it sounded like.
Okay, interesting. That's the first I've heard of that.
Doug McGowan.
President
is
Doug
the-
McGowan of
Yes.
MLGW. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So again,
Interesting.
Doug McGowan is the president and CEO of Memphis Light Gas and Water, the public utility that the citizens of Memphis own. Let's make sure we're focused in on.
Yeah.
So does that point, does that go back to an earlier point, Guido, as relates to, there is a correlation between, I guess, the technical construction, the technical aspect of how these things are supposed to work, and it has an impact on billing. The problem is, we know it's a problem with billing, but I guess this is my question to you. Should we have more clear, concrete root cause analysis of whatever the issue is? And I pose that question to you and Guido. And Guido, can we realistically go back and listen and see what the public documents are to kind of create some kind of electrical audit or gas audit, Guido, from a construction engineering perspective?
I would say yes. I'm
gotta be
saying
available.
that should have been in place anyway. Understanding that nothing is perfect, that's man-made. So what proper checks and balances do we need to put on the front end, and do we need to consistently do throughout the system to ensure that we can block these problems from taking place, or certainly minimize them? And this was not minimized by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
Yeah. I would say so.
Yep.
What do you say?
Well, here's how I typically think about this issue, and this is metering and billing across all three service commodities. There are so many different things that have to go right,
True.
right, to execute upon, to have a proper measure and subsequent billing to the customer, right? I think one of the board members, they were trying to brag on the fact that there were thousands of things that had to
No,
go
that
right.
was the VP.
It was VP talking,
Yeah,
right?
Timothy Davis.
Yeah, and that may be true, but consider this: how reliable every one of those things has to be in order to have an overall reliability across the network. So let's say there's 1,000 things that have to go right between the meter turning well, the wireless communications, the closest light post that has a Wi-Fi unit, that transmission having. There's so many different things. The calculation. There's some type of talk that has to happen with the. Apparently, MLGW has this very old customer.
Right.
What's that
What,
old customer?
Oracle?
Oracle
SCADA?
is the newer stuff, but
No, Oracle is the
Oracle's
system.
the legacy. It's some really old system.
Oracle
that-
was in existence before I retired.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah.
So it's this really customer. What is it? CSR. The CSR is really. Is it
SCADA?
CSR?
CIS,
CIS, thank you. I'm-
Customer Information System
yeah,
is
it's an
all.
old system. That
But
had
that's
all-
Oracle.
But they would have to build on top of
But
that.
that's Oracle.
That's Oracle. That's correct.
Yes.
That's Oracle. It's a really old system apparently, and there's issues. It's really complex, way above my head technically. But think about how reliable each one of those has to be to have an overall good reliability, right? If it has to be, fractions of a percentage of a chance for it not to work well in order to have a good chance that most of us get a proper billing. And I don't think that's the case because so many people complain about messed up billing. And then there's the network impact on it too. Like, is this a matter of the pressure not being high enough in that line? And you know it's the case, even if it's not for the gas or electric, all these flashing LEDs, when they change the whole network of LEDs across, these really nice white bright lights.
Yep.
And you'll go down a major street and all of them will be flashing on and off. That's because there isn't sufficient voltage in the line, which is analogous to pressure. And they admit to it. And so they're having to upgrade lines, they're trying to make them beefier, thicker wires. It's so multivariate and interconnected. They know that, and some kind of way in the development of all these networks and systems, they either haven't tracked it well or haven't built it out in a way that's sustainable so where they can ensure that they can continue to meet the need as demand grew, as they grew out in Collierville and Germantown. All of that has impacted.
Absolutely.
And it's a big mess. They haven't been good stewards. Meanwhile, they've sacrificed inner city, the
Absolutely.
core, which is the customer density. You got these very close houses in the inner city. You got a half an acre or more per house out there, and they have I'm ranting now, but they
Don't rant.
They didn't invest. They didn't invest in the core. They didn't invest in their network, and they're paying the price for it. And all of it is affecting it. So it's down the line.
Okay, so getting back to our metered services, I think we understand where we are. And again, I mentioned what makes this smart, okay? Because at this point in time, the analog mechanical meters, they say they're no longer being manufactured, is what we're being told. And therefore, you have to have at least a digital meter. So once the mechanical meters that are in operations throughout the city, throughout the county, let me say, once those meet their sanctioned age of service, then a digital meter will at least have to be installed to replace. Okay? And of course, the next would be our water. Now, this is one type of analog water meter, but that's not necessarily the one that we have in operations. But you can see, because it still has the dials here,
Yes.
okay, that move. But this is a current digital water meter. And you just basically see the absence of the dial. And Like Gas and Water uses Badger, so if you would ever want to do research on your water meter, Badger is pretty much the manufacturer of the water meters that Like Gas and Water purchases.
BADGER.
Yes.
Yeah,
B-A-D-G-E-R.
like the animal.
And what makes this smart, it has a mechanism that is put on the top, the little, you see this lid that would cover the meter. And we know this is in the ground.
Yes.
In the ground, okay? So I tried to actually look at mine before coming here, and it's covered with mud, so I've got to do major cleanup before I can find my reading. But this is in the ground, and of course when it rains or whatever, this box, it's in a box in the ground, is covered, okay? So I think most throughout the city, most individuals may see a water reading that's estimated often, and they'll tell you, well, we couldn't read it because the box was full. But I certainly encourage any and everyone to do your best to get all your readings each month. Your usage needs to be tracked, and that's one thing that we are seriously trying to encourage our public to understand, our ratepayers to understand. You need to track your usage. It's not that hard, okay? So don't let somebody blow your mind like it's so complicated. No, it's not that hard, okay?
But I have a question to that effect. So all of the water meters have been updated to be digital also in the city? Okay,
No,
okay, that's fine.
no. because mine is not. But I could not get to it because I wanted to.
Okay, so we
Get a
still,
picture of
but
it.
we still are operating with the analog system when it comes to the water, most cases.
No,
Well, no, I'm not saying that because when they did in 2016, Like Gas and Water moved to basically change everything over to what's being called smart meters. Okay, if you had not opted out to keep your analog meters, then they just came in and changed you out. And we realized that there were a lot of individuals who missed the notification because it was not broadcast widespread as it should have been. So a lot missed the opportunity to opt out when they were initially being installed. So some still have analogs. I can't tell you the percentage. Some have digital, then some have smart meters. So the ratio, I am not certain of. But you can look at your meter and make that determination, because if it is set up to be a smart meter, it's going to have this transmission device on the top, and you'll see the wire coming from. So it has to have that in order to transmit the information or your usage, okay? If not, then you're still looking at dials that move. And what I'm suggesting is that you capture these reads, and then on your meter reading day, which we'll get to how you find that later, you're going to get the current read, and the same thing. You take the last read and you subtract the read that you got some days before, okay? And then whatever that answer is, that's your usage. And let me just say this. Water is crucial here in Memphis. For a long time, the amount that we paid for water was nothing. Nothing. For a long time, various governmental agencies, school systems got what was called free water. They paid absolutely nothing, understand me. For years, this went on. Okay? So we have just really not appreciated the great source of water that we have here in Memphis. So keep that in mind, because now it's being just abused. It is being abused on a large scale, and we've got to address it. We've got to protect it.
especially by
Abused by,
industrial users.
so you said industrial users are getting this free water too?
They get a greatly reduced rate the more water they use. We'll go over that in a minute, right? You have that?
We'll make sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Progressive rate structure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the more volumetric use, the lower your costs. And of course, the lower cost gets the harder hit. So residents, of course, are paying more.
The lower
cost.
users. The lower
Yes, the
users
lower
get
users.
hardest hit. Yeah.
But residents are being hit
Exactly.
harder.
Yes.
Okay.
Next.
We'll move on. Okay, so are we good to move on? Okay, so how we are billed, okay? We talked about our metered services. So unmetered services. For a city of Memphis residents, we pay sewer, which is based on the amount of water you use. Okay? So if you're estimated, whatever that amount is, you're also paying sewer. So it's a double hit on water. Okay? Then we have solid waste fee, which is a flat fee. Storm water, which is a flat fee. Mosquito rodent, which is Shelby County. That money goes to Shelby County. that is a flat fee of 75 cents across the board. I come back to stormwater because there is a variation in how that is charged. And we'll do further investigation on that. But I know that there's some residents that are paying one fee, and there's some residents who are homeowners that are paying another fee. So we're going to delve into how that differentiation is determined, because that's an interesting thing for me. There are some individuals who are, say, renters, they pay a different fee. So that's something we'll investigate. Don't want to make things too heavy.
Okay.
Solid waste fee is set. We know that we got an increase this past July. We were paying $22.96, and now or 29, I'm sorry, $29.96. Now we are paying $41.96 every month for solid waste fee. Okay? And I'm just a plug here. Stormwater fee. We know how bad the city flooded with this last mega rain, continuous rain that we had. This is a concern. Because what happened with our drainage system, that it was not up to par. I know, you know, it was massive water that all came down at one time, but I'm like, you know, it should have flown out to the dip, drop points, whatever, and those should have filled first. Instead, the inward city was flooding, not the outward. So that tells me that something wasn't right, okay? So for individuals who live in Shelby County, you're not within the city limits of Memphis. You're not within the city limits of any of the suburban areas. You are responsible for and this is what's on your bill, okay? You are responsible for a Shelby County fire protection fee, which I believe is like $50 a month. Then you have the mosquito rodent, which of course we discussed, 75. You also pay a storm water fee. And for those that are connected to the city, because the city of Memphis does have sewer lines that run out in the county, so those individuals also pay a city sewer fee. And then there are some that may be on septic tank and may won't have those responsibilities. Then we have, of course, we know that we service light, gas, and water. We service all of Shelby County. So all of our suburban areas, and we have them listed here, okay? So Arlington, Bartlett, Collierville, Germantown, Lakeland, and Millington. Suburban areas. They will have a mosquito rodent. Okay? Now, what other services they pay as far as their suburb is concerned, that comes from a different source. It's not
MLGW, right?
Unlike gas and water.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's only for those respective counties.
Cities, the suburban areas.
But they're part of the county, right?
They are. So county is they're not, the only county fee that they pay is what we pay, county.
But they
Mosquito rodent.
they have their separate municipal fee.
Yes,
Correct.
absolutely.
Separate municipal fees, yes.
And there's,
Okay, and, so yeah, we did that, okay.
Share the
So let me
pennies.
talk a moment about share the pennies, which it is an optional billing, okay? And someone at Light, Gas, and Water thought it would be to our benefit, our being Light, Gas, and Water, that we just could share the pennies on every single customer's bill. And what is share the pennies? Share the pennies is, say, your bill, your true actual charges on your bill for services, your electric, gas, water, and your flat services. came to $202.50. So what Share the Penny says is to help others who need assistance with their bill, I will commit 50 cents. You can take my bill up to the next dollar and bill me $203. That 50 cents goes into the Share the Pennies pot. So if your bill is $202.01, then of course we got 99 cents.
Right, it rounds up.
Share the Pennies.
It rounds up.
So they decided that we'll just put it on all the accounts, and if they don't want it, they can call us.
Yes.
And tell us to remove it.
It was former Councilwoman Patrice Robinson at City Council who put that forward, got it passed. It is an opt-out, and the customers do not know this when they sign in or move in, that it is an opt-out. You have to call MLGW and say, no, I do not want to be a part of the Share the Pennies, otherwise it is automatic.
Go back
Yes.
to this when you say there was a city council.
Remember.
No. I'm just saying when she submitted that bill.
Yes. And they approved it. They made it opt-out as opposed to opt-in, where you could volunteer to sign up for it.
When they passed the legislation.
She used to work for MLGW.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And she got an appointment that hadn't come to fruition either.
At TVA, yes. That's
Okay. So again, Share the Pennies is an optional billing, not a absolute.
One quick question to that. When you is there a way that for annually to determine how much was allocated for Share the Pennies?
Oh,
Can you
yes.
determine that amount. Can you ask them to report that out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There's been some conversation around that program, and there were some issues. So yes, we can do a FOIA request and get the actual amount that is supposedly sanctioned in that account.
So can the city council actually request that? If, you know,
The city council can, but we can do
I
a
don't think
FOIA.
that's what.
yes.
Yes.
Because I would think that it would be, if they were going to make their decision, that just as a part of their public annual campaign, public just statement to articulate that to the general public. And if you haven't done that, and I assume that law has probably been in place for at least 6 years, because Patrice, when she left, maybe 3 years ago.
Oh, it was in place before, yeah.
A year and a half ago, yes. It
No,
was
no,
her
no,
first
it's been
term.
long.
It was her first term, and she
So
just
that's
cycled
how
out
she did
in her
2
second
terms.
term.
That's
Yep.
about 10 years then.
Yeah, that,
Okay.
because it was in place before I retired, so yeah.
Okay, interesting.
That's an average of $6 per customer they're getting additionally per year that's in that program. Just statistically, what I'm thinking.
I think it would be for the year, per customer, for the
Should
year.
pennies?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's even
12
worse.
months. 12 months.
For
Yeah.
10 years, please.
Okay.
Oh, I want to mention.
Yes.
Just want to mention one thing with regard to the solid waste. If you are a qualifying senior, 65 years or older, your total household income is $25,000 or less, you qualify to pay $9.23 for solid waste instead of $41.96. And you get a discount on your sewer charge. Sewer charge is calculated based on your water usage. So rather than pay $2.48 time your water usage, you only pay $1.81 time that water usage. And in order to get that, you can simply call 311, let them know you're interested in the solid waste discount. They will take your information, someone will get back to you to process an application so that you can get it. So any qualifying seniors or 100% disabled with a total household income of $25,000 or less. And this is a discount that has been in effect for over 2 decades
Yes.
that I only found out about in 2024. So for any qualifying seniors, pass the word around to make certain that they get their discounts.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
Belinda did a op-ed sharing that info, so we will post that again on our webpage.
Absolutely.
The op-ed has all the details that she just.
Yes.
All of it, yes. Yes.
How to request it.
$9.23 is a far cry from
Far cry.
$41.96.
But again, as I listen for me, I'm always, trying to, how do we articulate,
Yes.
promote it, so we can measure people understanding it. So if it's not on the website or from the MLGW site, how do we just kind of make sure people know that? But I'll look at that opinion. See how we can create a flyer or something.
I want to make sure that when we understand that when we talk about unmetered services, these, with the exception of I hadn't gotten to it yet.
The streetlights, yeah.
These are monies that have nothing to do with like gas and water.
Sure.
These go to the city or the county. So anything regarding solid waste, that's going to go, those questions, those requests will go to the city. And the discount for seniors should be on the city's website. It should be on their website that service is available.
And I just want to throw one thing out there, when you come to websites and elderly.
Yes,
That's
yes.
a whole nother.
Right.
animal.
I agree.
Right.
Like, they tell you, anytime you call now, they tell you, go to the website.
Yes.
And a lot of seniors do
Cannot.
not know to do
I
that or
agree.
how to do that.
Absolutely.
So in my opinion, it should be in big bold letters on the MLGW bill that it is available, because MLGW is the one that deals with.
No, let
it's
me
not-
clarify though,
Okay.
let me clarify. And that's something that I'm straight up about what's best, because Light, Gas, and Water is responsible for your metered services.
Right. I'm just
Let's
saying.
be clear about that. When we get to unmetered services, those setups are handled by those agencies, not Light, Gas, and Water.
Right.
So yes, they're partners, and the fact that MLGW is publicly owned is really the open door to them having the availability to build this. The thought process was it's to your benefit because you only get one bill.
Exactly.
But let's understand who's responsible.
I just feel that public should be notified.
I agree.
I think they could
And I
add it to
think
the bill.
best way
Yeah.
to notify them is
Some
that
kind of disclaimer.
even though
Mm-hmm.
they're billing unmetered services,
Mm.
when you get your bill, solid waste is on your bill.
Mm.
So my thinking, or my rationale is, why not put something on your bill to make it known that this is available?
Sure.
That's my only thing, because they're not notifying the public of this.
I think
So
that.
we'll talk later. 'Cause
But I think what Ms. Hicks is indicating is that because there's unmetered service, that's not even our focus and our priority. When it comes to the government facilitation side, that's really incumbent upon the community to start demanding how we advocate for people to know that type of information.
Yeah.
I think that's part of this movement, to kind of find the strategies to create a public education and advocacy campaign around what citizens need to know and be able to do, which is part of this workshop, right? And as I listen, kind of how we create this marketing and education to know, because they're not going to do it from the unmetered side. And to your point, the meter side, they're not going to try to tackle that, because that can be another whole budgetary item in itself, which can come out of the penny, say the penny. Go ahead.
share the
Keep in mind the reason why MLGW and TVA exist in the first place, and that is to lift people out of poverty.
Yeah.
That's the only reason we got either of them. Where in Memphis, it tends to disproportionately burden many people.
Yes.
to,
Say
so
that
if
again, go
there's
back,
a,
go back, say it again.
I-
Well, say it again, one thing, yeah, go ahead.
there's a lot of argument that it burdens people. And if there's something, if there's information that especially a particular group of people can benefit in having, then it should be no problem between executive, MLGW board, or city council to have like a small PSA block that throughout the year you get 12 buildings that you get different information out to folks, whether it be
Right.
discounts on these other services, whatever it is. But the reason back to the original, is to lift people out of poverty. And if they're not going to be fulfilling that mission, then why are they here?
Well, and they do the inserts with every bill. They could easily do it. It's a city function. They're all connected. That's why MLGW can bill for them, because they're all part of the city. So I agree with you. They should put occasionally reminder either on the bill or in that little flyer they put in with your bill. It would not be too hard.
Exactly. Notify the public, let
Yeah.
the people know.
It's all part of the same system.
You shouldn't have to hunt for it.
Right.
You should not.
You should not have to hunt for it. Exactly.
You should not.
2 decades.
Yeah.
So our only other item here is the street lights. Okay, and the responsibility of street lights used to be the city's, okay? Off the top, I cannot remember how long Light, Gas, and Water has had that responsibility, okay? But it's $4.32. That's a flat fee that's paid, and we know what that's supposed to go to. And we know that that is an issue, because we were supposed to have this massive upgrade, and most of them, as Gorda has said, do not work. You can drive through the entire city, and at some point, I assure you, you're going to come into darkness.
Or flashing lights, or the flashing
Or
lights.
flashing lights.
Yeah.
But I came down Austin P earlier this week, and from the time that I hit up, came off the exit, came up, all the way down to Austin P and say, James Road.
Yeah.
So, a nice distance. I mean, not a one light. It was black, all black. So, I'm just sharing to say, there is a number that you can call to report street light outages. When they get to it, that's another matter. But at least report and track. And then we can raise that issue, that the response time is not acceptable. Okay?
Yep. Absolutely. There we go.
Now, the importance of, this is a sample light, gas, and water bill, okay? Your metered services, can you all see that? Then first, this is the order. So you're always going to have your metered services first, because that's light, gas, and water's responsibility. Then your other MLGW, which is your street light, $4.32. Then whatever City of Memphis fees, county fees, those all come from there. And on the back of the bill is your total owed, okay? This area is crucial and important, okay? This area tells you what cycle your meters are read in. The entire county is divided into 21 billing cycles, okay? Every month. So we know basically that there are 20 work days in a month, correct? So at some point there is a double. Either they will read on a Saturday or they're reading 2 cycles. Because basically there are 20 work days in a month. So the city is divided into those 21 cycles. On the large scale, cycle 21 is basically industrial.
Can you back up a little bit?
Sure.
But that's kind of it's hard for me to interpret.
Okay.
I just need some clarity.
Okay.
So, when you say 21 billing cycles, I'm associating that with 21 days in the 30-month calendar, correct?
So they're what?
Business
Generally
days.
20 work days
20 business
in
days.
a month, right?
So
4 weeks.
No,
5 days a week.
5 days a week.
that's
4 weeks.
I hear you. I'm just trying to process it out.
Sure.
Sure.
Hold
Yeah.
on.
Hold on, Porter.
So basically not counting the weekends.
Absolutely not.
Got it. Okay, so usually I'm saying, I'm just trying with 30.
Mhm.
Okay. So 21 billing cycles. So billing cycles is actually days.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So it's because when you say billing, so I'm thinking like all those cycles. So days are cycles.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's why I say they're basically standard. There are 20 work days, Monday through
All
Friday.
right, good. I'm
in a
just
month.
trying to translate the complex or something.
Yes.
The basic of the elementary level. For me
I
to
got
understand. So billing cycles is days.
Yes.
So 21 work days that we are measuring those bills on.
Mhm.
So, okay.
That 21 days that a group of meters are read each month. You're in cycle 1.
Yeah.
That's month.
I'm in a different cycle,
Okay,
probably.
So cycle is territorial geographical.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because
Yes.
they can't read everybody at
Well, I
once.
get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
No, you're good. You're good.
That's
I
it.
get it. And this
Good
is
question.
important, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
It is for you to know.
Absolutely.
So
We wanna
like you know
understand.
your geographical. So if I'm saying that our next community association meeting, we are in MLGW geographical zone such and such.
Once you get,
Right.
once you have the information as to what cycle 1, what area of the city is cycle 1, what area of the city is cycle 2, what area of the city is
How
cycle
did
3.
you know yours though?
I know mine, that's what I'm telling you.
No, I'm talking about, no, she said she know her.
I don't know mine. I just know when my reading date is.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
So
It's on your bill.
yes, that's why we're talking this blue area, the importance
Where
of
does
this.
it say that?
So it tells you billing cycle. This is cycle 19. So it tells you
Oh,
billing
that's what
cycle.
that means.
Do we,
Okay.
is this not clear?
No, I can see it, but again, this is kind of confusing. So, because again, the one thing is interpret the language, right?
Yes.
Yes.
One thing from green to
Right.
So billing cycle, yes, billing cycle 13. So
Yes.
Okay, get it.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
billing cycle 13 for that particular area.
Area.
19 is the date that was identified on this case.
The day that it was read. Is that
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
So the reading date.
the reading day.
So why is this so important though? We're talking this area because this bill, your bill will tell you the next day that you will be read. This is April. So your April bill will tell you the reading date for May. So you need to log that and read your meters on that day.
Yeah, set an
You're
alarm or
tracking
something.
the usage, right?
Right.
So you have the read, you saw the read on on this bill for April.
Okay.
You take that reading, that's set. On your read date, and in your case, on cycle 13, what are you? Is that your current or that's an older bill?
Oh, that's an older
Okay,
one.
so
So is it
this one,
What is your
The cycle
second?
should be always
I'm
the
like-
same.
Oh,
The
okay.
billing cycle should always be the same number then.
the billing cycle is always the same.
Yes, I'm saying.
But the read date,
Right, I got you.
Oh, yeah, really, that's good.
that's why it could vary within a 2 to 3 day
Yeah.
window.
Yeah.
It may, and some months it may go a little bit beyond, but I want you all to really pay close attention because this is important. Okay, there,
Drawing it
now
up a
can you
little.
scan it over?
You want me to make it bigger?
No, over the other way. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so this was mine March, okay, so see, March 28 was my read date, okay? So I won't be read again this month until April 30th. So I know what my reads are here. So on April 30th, I'm going to get my reads. and I can already determine my usage,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah.
So, can we
Do you want me to,
pull it up just a little bit?
can we go down?
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we've got our billing cycle, we've got our next meter reading date, important. Log it on your calendar, put an alarm in your phone. Let's become active and engaged and know what's going on. And this is also important because if you get this read and you go out on this date and the read is the same, there isn't any change, and you know you've had usage, that's a problem. That means that something's not working.
Yeah.
So don't sit and say, they'll call me. No, be active. Make the call yourself. Chuck, come out. I need someone to come out and check my meter now. Because I'm being active and I know that something's wrong because I know I've had usage. I know I didn't use zero because I've been here and I've had usage. Okay? So that's important. I believe that's everything that's crucial. Oh, no, one other thing. Days of service. Days of service, okay? So your basic, and I need to go into another, what makes up your bill. I think that comes after this. But your days of service, everything should be based on basically a month, which standard is 30 days, right? A month, month's usage. Standard is 30 days. You may be in, 29, depending on, like for new customers, when you moved in, your first bill could be less days, and then your usage is prorated. But a standard month is 30 days. If this number gets to 35 days, that's a problem. That is a problem. That is a problem. Please note that. Because the system is set up to start prorating you. So this means that you can get overbilled. There isn't any reason for that to happen except they delayed billing you. And this was a problem with a lot of customers, that a lot of customers missed when their bills were delayed.
So let's clarify that problem again. So what should the number be?
A standard month is 30 days.
30 days. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Standard month.
Gotcha.
The way, and I didn't want to get too technical, the way the system is set up, it has a window of standard, okay?
Okay.
So that can range from, say, 26 days to 33 days.
Got it.
Okay?
That's it.
Standard. When it gets beyond or less than, then you're talking proration.
I got you.
This, okay?
Good.
So that's important. That is important
Yes.
to check. These are things that you should be checking every month to minimize error billing.
Yes.
Okay?
To be
My bill
proactive.
showed 34 on it, and I had no clue that was something to look for
Yes, yes,
on your bill.
yes.
Yeah, this one had 34
Okay.
days or so.
And we should get to that next, a little more detail. Did you have?
No, you're going good. I think for me, but always why to make the connection.
Yes.
So when you say it's very important, I'm like, okay, all right, and then, you broke it down, so now you're able to see that kind of connection.
Okay.
Is that good? Do we go to the next
Uh-huh.
slide?
Next.
Okay. Oh, great, now I broke it. Let's see here.
Okay. So,
Probably gonna have to zoom in here. Do you want me to zoom in again on this?
make it clearer because it's a little. Yes, very good. Okay, so when we talk about how you're being charged, okay, and I'm trying to not be overwhelming with David. So if we get too detailed, let me know, okay? But for every metered service that you have, every metered service that you have, Kevin, the lady that called us, there is a flat fee, first of all. So let's say your electric and gas is made up of 3 components. 3 components, the charges are made up of 3 components. Does that make sense? The charges for electric and gas are made up of 3 components. You have your base fee, your service fee. That goes to light, gas, and water because I extend service to you. It's available, whether you use one iota or not. This will be on your bill every month, okay? So you have your base service fee, which in this case it's $14.60 minus the $1.54, okay? So then you have that base fee. Then you get your charge for electrical usage, the actual kilowatt hours, okay? This tells you first 500, how it's billed, okay? So we are currently in, this is April, so we're in a transition. Transition period shall mean the April, May, for the spring, and then for the going into the winter, it's going to be November and October and November. Okay? So these are the rates. If you wanted to calculate your bill, you could do that. I don't want to get too detailed. Just telling you it's available. This is available for every single person. You can go on the website and get these rates. They have to make them public, okay? The other rate, which is not, and you don't have that.
Oh, I don't have
The other rate that is not, does not come to light, gas, and water, let me say this, is it's called FCA, and you will see it on your bill. Can we go back?
You want me to go back to the bill?
Yeah, and I'll show you.
Here, on that?
Move it up.
Go up.
Over. Okay, we're good. Includes TVA, fuel cost adjustment.
I want to know about that.
Includes TVA, fuel cost adjustment. That fee adjusts every month. Every month. It is a different factor. Excuse me. Different factor that you are billed upon. So the total amount of usage that you get when you get this read and subtract this read and just say it's 1,500. You're going to take the
rate plus TVA's rate.
Yes.
Multiplied by 1,500.
Yes.
And is it true, and I do not know this, but is it true that this variable rate, TVA's surcharges, so it's based on how much fuel they're burning to run a gas turbine?
That would encompass it.
Okay.
There would be no, I have no doubt in my mind to say yes,
Yeah.
it encompasses that.
Yeah.
Why? Because this thing fluctuates like crazy.
Like crazy, yeah.
Every month you
So-
get
so-
a
so-
different factor.
But what they're doing,
I get it. I get it. But see, again, my mind's running a number of different places.
I got it.
So, but this is kind of key because one thing is the education side.
Yes.
And then there's the advocacy side.
Yes.
And really trying to how to ask the right kind of questions to monitor and measure, again, cost savings for the public, but also the fact that the citizen might just constantly be exploited.
Oh, yes.
In so many ways, but if we can kind of frame them questions, man, all those questions in a way that we can kind of really have meaningful conversation, that we got some sense with people with power, so don't think that we're dumb and not
Yes.
informed.
Yes.
Because
That's why
we
this is
No,
important.
again, and so to do some kind of, again, you hear me keep saying construction engineering, some kind of audit based on some people who are informed on what that should look like. So just based off that example, right? What should it be CY kilowatts for a norm, right? And just say that, to your point, around XAI coming in and that increases, and you think it's a correlation with that company or any company using
I hear you.
that kind of money. I think, but that was your point, and I really didn't understand, but I get it now, around water usage.
Yes. Yes.
That organizations may be utilizing the water at the expense of
Absolutely.
overall.
Yes.
Even TVA.
Oh, especially TVA.
Thank you.
It's one of our top water users.
Back in 2016, I didn't know, this is before I worked for MLGW,
Oh, so you
before I could really, and
So give me now, y'all got inside knowledge of how this stuff
had.
works. Well, just the inside. because
It's
very
helpful.
important. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Back in 2016, before I knew anything of significance about these enterprises, there was a lot of conversation on Memphis raising expectations around what could happen, because the big talk was, should MLGW leave
TVA,
which is
exactly.
something generally I didn't support, because how you gonna beat TVA? Not that TVA is just so great, they're just such a behemoth.
Mhm.
And so I started talking, well, common sense is just charge TVA more for that damn water. It's not like they're operating in a vacuum. They are, the only way they can produce power at that plant is with our water.
And we're their
Charge them as
biggest
much water as
customer.
you want. Charge them so much for that water, so you can give everybody in the city free electricity for all I
But I'm
care.
That's
fine. I
right.
think what's happening, and that's why it's kind of watchdog or advocacy group, so watchdog.
Yep.
It's because I guarantee you that they are selling water to different states and different places around the country, or electricity,
Oh yeah, certain electricity.
certainly electricity
Yeah.
and or, so-
Are you, they being
TVA.
TVA,
Yeah. They have
I
jurisdiction
don't
in Mississippi.
selling water? I don't know.
Well, I said water and electricity. Well,
Yes.
Again, find a way to capitalize off of it. Because if they're selling, what's the other company? MISC.
Mizo.
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 Do they
Or
utilize
Entergy.
water? Do they utilize the same water?
Our water?
Yeah.
Or the,
I mean, well, I can't really see that because
From the
they
same
don't
aquifer?
have any lines that run in our area.
I don't
is
know.
my
Our
understanding.
aquifer
We would've
extends
had
to the north, so I don't know.
build transmission
Well,
lines.
they were one of the chief competitors for the contract, I guess, for Memphis.
They were, but we would have had to build
Somebody.
out the system
Oh.
in
Yeah.
order for them
To connect with them.
service us.
to connect with them.
So there were points that were in Missouri and some area in Arkansas.
Oh, so they were going to have to build out and know that. Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, to
in order
connect.
for us to connect into their grid,
There is
we would
something
have to
that-
build the transmission lines to connect into the grids,
There
their
is-
existing
Would
grid.
that be, would that have, I guess, they were saying that would be less expensive for the city to even do that versus to continue going to the TVA? Is that accurate?
Based on the data that we received, Ray, that was what, I
What-
believe that was.
The mayor's
result.
audit, because Mayor Strickland ordered a separate audit after, because MLGW did their own audit and was heavily biased in favor of TVA. And based on the mayor's audit, that's what the consultant said, that yes,
Myself.
it would be beneficial to look into that.
Also, it was that around that time, and since then, I've been looking for what is the issue like. Anyway, so I looked at the bill and I saw this TV, and that's why I started reading about that. And I figured, what the hell is this? And that's when I stumbled upon the term cost shifting. I'd never heard of the term before. I started reading about cost shifting.
Yes.
I bring it up
Cost
in
is
a
shifting.
community advisory council meeting. And no, first I bring it up in a private phone call with Doug. Doug denies that it even exists. His words, verbatim, there is no such thing as cost shifting.
That's bull.
And
He may not have known.
That's bull, Ray.
Well,
That's bull.
I'm just saying, sometimes.
No.
Well,
the
he
president.
no, she right, he will.
No.
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 If-
First of all, excuse me. Let's understand where Doug was before he came to Like Water.
His name.
That's
He
true.
was the CEO of the city.
That's true.
So don't tell me what he did not know. He was the CEO
COO.
of
COO.
Excuse me.
Chief
COO, Chief
Operating
Operating Officer of the city of
City
Memphis.
Memphis, in the Strickland administration.
Yes.
He, and before that, he was the commander of the naval base.
But he's not a construction engineer.
He is a civil engineer. And I know he ought know if he doesn't, because the same conversations happen with highways. The same funding mechanism for electrical infrastructure and the phenomenal cost shifting, the same thing happens with highways. You drive I drive a Tesla, you drive a hybrid Toyota Prius, she drives a Corolla that's all gas. We all use the road and tear it up just as much, but I don't pay any gas tax that funds the maintenance of the road because I have electric. You only a little bit, and you bear most of that cost. But that's how the road gets maintained through the gas tax, based on how often we hit the gas pump.
So you all
and
cost
so
share.
it affects. I'm completely shifting my costs off
Yes,
both of them.
'cause
She's
she's electric.
partially shifting off, but she bears the most weight of that situation. The same thing is true for electrical infrastructure. Those who can afford to upgrade in efficiency, or even someone who comes into the marketplace with a disproportionately high demand for electric infrastructure, effectively shifts costs across everyone's network. Why do you think they keep raising your rate? Doug will say it's not to accommodate XAI.
Oh, that's bull.
I got him to be on a phone call and recorded him saying different. In the very next breath, he'll deny that cost shifting exists. In public, he denied cost shifting exists. And if he doesn't know that cost shifting is real, why is he president of our utility authority?
Well, that goes back.
That's, yeah. Yep.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's why I'm trying to keep it as simplistic.
No, you're doing a great job. I think
But I just want, our citizenry, our ratepayers to understand what makes up the charge that you see on
Shows
your
up on the bills.
What caused this $85.76? Three things. A base service that I pay, that MLGW charges every month, whether I use one inkling of anything, okay? Then, this 576 kilowatts, there is the rate, where we were on the rate screen, so we're in, this is March, so we were still in winter billing. So I haven't had April yet. So April's a transition month. So the rates are broken up, you'll see. So I had my rate per kilowatt hours, and then my rate so it's 576 times my rate per kilowatt hours, 576 times this fuel cost adjustment factor makes up this amount.
So we're already paying the three different rates depending on the time of year. What is the TVA fuel cost adjustment? Where does that go? Is it straight to
It
TVA,
goes
or
to
does it
TVA.
strengthen our lines or anything?
No, that money does nothing for MLGW.
So we're basically getting a double whammy
Exactly.
if TVA is already charging us three different rates throughout the year, plus this additional tip.
So the
like a
allowance
tip.
of this is one thing we need to delve into.
Yes.
And the driver that allows them to fluctuate this, because you're not going to tell me that this fuel cost adjustment factor does not fluctuate because of how much energy they're providing because they're building up East Tennessee.
Question.
And building out gas turbines.
Yes.
Can that be a question that we ask the city council to request that documentation in their standard meeting with MLGW?
We can ask.
We should, and also keep in mind, MLGW is TVA's biggest customer by far. So the fact that we are paying the majority of whatever, we're helping East Tennessee, we're helping Kentucky, not necessarily right here. So yeah, we should definitely be asking
It's very
city
important
council.
politically too, because there's a
Yes.
lot of folks who don't want to be associated with us, but they sure need us.
They sure need us, that's
Exactly.
right.
They use us.
We the stepchild, but we the state is the stepchild of the state, but the state needs us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. MLGW could be negotiating a lot harder with TVA for our
That's another
benefit.
thing.
Yes.
The fact that they don't.
Doug says,
You're really.
I'm mad at Doug. Doug says,
This is
Doug
therapeutic for you.
constantly says, I have an obligation of equality. And it's weird that I bring this up in mention of TVA, but it connects to me in some way because that's language I can remember reading with how TVA imposes its will onto who it provides to about equality. And you know, what MLGW has a lot of buying power. That's what I'm hearing from you
Yes.
guys.
They
Lean
should.
into that,
They
right?
should.
But
They
if,
do.
if TVA holds that, but we have to do this with a matter of equality. You see what I mean? Not equity. See, equity is something that somebody like you and I would be interested in. Equity, right? But that is in nowhere. That's not even a part of Doug's vocabulary. I'm willing to bet. But the same failure to lean into equity, negotiating with TVA, is the same equity that isn't being sent down to you as a customer of MLGW. They consistently engage in practices to shift costs onto you.
Yes.
Disparately
Oh,
so.
they
Yeah.
make it known.
In the
They
name
make
of-
it known.
So you're saying in the name of equality?
Yes, ignoring equity.
I get you. So
If they leaned into equity, they could address their monster. TVA is a
It's a
devil.
monster.
It's the
Yeah.
devil.
But I guess also again for anybody who knows where its power comes from, because TVA is federal agency
And quasi-governmental.
Exactly. So it's equality is that he has to do what the president said,
Yeah.
right?
There you are. Because he appoints.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
He appoints TVA's officers.
But then Congress approves. Yes.
Yeah. But,
Yes.
But that's his.
Do we want
But
to
he
talk
did.
about
He
Congress?
well, no,
We-
and
So
he.
I'm just speaking to
Yes.
Sharon's point. The point about equality. So that's equality. We all Americans, man. So
So
Yeah.
we say.
Yep.
that's equality.
Okay. So our water is the only service that does not entail a third. Okay? You have a base, again, because Ligasa Water provides the availability of the service. And then you have a rate assessed based on your actual usage. Two for water.
Yes.
Comprised of
As
two
opposed to a
components.
third party. Did
Okay.
you want me to skip down to that the
So those
water
are-
rate page?
Yes.
And those are the three components, right? Just went over.
Yes. So again, electric and gas has 3 components, water has 2.
Where can you find the rates, that information there?
It's on the Ligasa Water website.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just,
search for
you
rates.
can Google, MLGW rates,
Okay.
and
Because I was not aware of that.
yes.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so there are different water rates, okay? Again, this tells you all city of Memphis residents, this is what you pay. So right now, for every
Let's go down a little bit.
cubic,
Sorry. There? Is that good?
down, just,
Bring it back
okay,
up this way?
right there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So, monthly rate, CCFs equal, so, 100 cubic feet, and I don't want to get into, to mention that. So, per,
Block of water.
thank you,
Big chunk of water.
$2.39 That's your base rate. So here, for the usage, for your actual minimum, and this is a little bit different on water. It's called, you get a minimum bill, so you can use anywhere from say 1 to 3 CCFs, and you're gonna get billed based on what type meter you have. And a 5/8 inch is a standard residential meter. Okay,
Okay.
these larger meters don't, I mean, unless you've got a mansion or, you know.
Okay.
So this is the standard, $10.12. That is standard. Now, when you, and they tell you here, the minimum monthly bill shall be determined by the meter size. So the question is, what is minimum month, what is minimum? And I'm letting you know that the system is set up to, anything billing from 1 to 3 consumption is going to get a minimum bill, okay? So this is important because if you're ever estimated, don't let them overestimate. Because once that history is established in your billing history, then the next year when you're estimated again, what are they gonna pull from?
Reference from
The
the-
estimation.
Okay.
And another pen to put here, when you, if you should move into a residence, okay? You move into a residence, just say, it's just me. I buy a house. The people who lived in that house before I bought it was a family. It was a family of 5 folks. Do you think we would have the same usage of anything?
No.
So, one bad thing that Light, Gas, and Water will do if they're estimating you is estimate you based on the previous year's history. But that's not my history. I
Wow.
didn't even live there. So that's why this is so important. I cannot stress how important it is to dismiss estimations at all costs. They will tell you, we didn't have enough personnel to come out and read your meter. That's your fault. You should have.
That's a staff.
So send someone out to read my meter. I am disputing it without fail. I am disputing. Make sure you use those words. I am disputing it because it's wrong. And you're basing me, I wasn't even here last year this time. So it's not my usage. So no. And then even if I was here last year, make sure that they're not overestimating. Because they will systematically increase the usage. And they can claim that it's a factor based on the temperature and the X and then I'm like, no, my usage is right there.
Yep.
So if I used 3 last year, you better not bill me more than 3. Because what's different this year?
Right.
How are you saying that anything's different? And you can talk about the temperature being different when it comes to if you're estimated on electric. But again, that's why it's so important that we are tracking our usage. So if they estimate you, no. I have a picture. I took a picture of my meter on meter reading day, and I know that it had this reading. Therefore, your billing, your estimation is way over. So no. And this is a protection that we can give to ourselves. Okay? So important. I think that's it on that.
All right.
Okay, so, and we discussed this again. So it tells you here what's, your transition months. So April and May are our transition months for spring. They changed this because it used to have all seasons, but now they went to this transition period, which I haven't had time to go back, but I'm sure this is flubbed, okay, that they can do it this way.
Okay. Oh, that might be it.
Okay, so any other questions? you all can raise those at this point. Or we have a QR code here for you to scan.
Yeah, that basically, if you're looking to find our group, here's the information, or if you scan that QR code, it will present you with the same information along with the links to our social media. So it's a little easier to use if you're familiar with using QR codes. So,
And
but
therefore, you can ask any questions, any
Yes.
follow-up questions that you might think about.
you can
always
reach out to us. Absolutely.
I just have one question. With the smart meters, don't they have access to that data in-house or not? Because,
If it's transmitted.
okay, because I was, having a conflict with them about my meter readings and I can't think of the name of the group I was talking, the advocacy group, whatever the name of the group.
Micah?
No, you mean customer advocacy,
That's it.
like Gas and Water? Yeah.
MLGWs.
Who is an
Okay.
individual, basically,
Yeah,
yeah.
so they were able to actually tell me what my meter reading was.
So why did they estimate?
Exactly, that was my question. Like, what, they estimated my bill for 3 or 4 months.
One of those thousands.
Right, but I'm like, if you have access to this data, why did you estimate it? Because they estimated it saying it was a dog in the yard or some other bogus reason, which was not the case. And so I'm like, so you have access to it because she told me what it was. I'm like, oh, okay. So you knew what it was.
So why was I estimated? Was that your question? Nick?
Exactly.
And
they
she
never-
couldn't answer.
You could not answer
I
it
know.
and stuck to that estimation. I mean, I went to 3, 4 different emails. I asked for the supervisor to come, and they still stuck with those high estimations.
Wait a minute.
Based on previous years.
No, ma'am. Did you dispute it?
Yes, I did.
Then you should have said there isn't any way that I am paying this erroneous bill.
Well, see, they had already billed it, it had already.
I don't care if they did. Once you
They
got
asked
it,
for a refund. I asked for
no,
a refund.
ma'am.
They
Did you get a refund?
Did not. They gave me a.
Do you
some
still have
refund.
this information?
I do.
What year was
I
this?
did. Well, this was the estimates were earlier, in 2024. They were in 2024.
We need to go down,
Yeah.
we need to
Yeah.
call for a hearing. I've been to 2 this year
Mhm.
with customers
Mhm.
who were they were erroneously billed. The last one was a couple of weeks ago. She has not received her findings. There is a customer advocacy officer. We presented the data because we did our research. We knew that she had been overestimated. She started taking pictures of her readings.
Yes.
So we went back and checked every bill, and just like I told you, went through the rates, checked the charges and everything. Told them where they screwed up, told them where they overbilled her when we're talking that base service, because that's where I was saying when it goes over a certain amount of days, that cost is inflated for that month. And I'm like, it's not acceptable. I don't care if we're talking about $3. When someone is on a fixed income and they're expecting X amount, and then you come and bill me $20 more, I'm like, what does that do for me for that month? I'm on a fixed income. I know what I have allocated here, here, here. And then you come and hit me with $20 when I had already committed over here. I'm like, no. You can say, oh, and they'll tell you, well, it'll be adjusted off next month. What does that do for me for this month? I'm on a fixed income. So I'm like, that's not acceptable. And to think that I'm gonna go along with it, you're wrong. So I'm like, I don't care if it's $3, you're adjusting this bill. So you have to stand on what you know. That's why we're trying to empower our people with the education. So you can fight, you can advocate, and you can advocate without moving. You can stand like a tree planted by the rivers of water.
Oh. We're processing over here. Yeah.
That's I can appreciate that, and I was taught that a part of advocacy, or the thing of advocacy, maybe, is giving voice to those that don't have one, right? And like, I'm wondering, and this will be the fourth day this has come up to me, 3 previous days in a row, 3 previous days with other folks, and now it's just sourced for me now. Ms. Walker campaigned and always talking about information asymmetry, right? How we have a community that's not very well informed. We also have a community that is fairly illiterate. And with illiteracy comes a host of a bunch of problems, including being able to express myself.
Absolutely.
And when I can't, like you use very particular language, which I love language. You use erroneously, right? In error. She said dispute, and she's called these words out several times. How many times have I heard the word erroneously before today? Let alone use. But
I'm sorry.
But no, it's not that. No, it's nothing to apologize for. But you said we have to do this. What about the I imagine the folks that really need this because of the lower income or fixed income.
Right or wrong. It's either
doesn't
right or
Where's
wrong.
the collective? But where's like that I can defend myself I'm dangerous, right?
I hear you.
Yeah, but what about the folks
I
in
hear you.
advance that need that, and what are the considerations on collective advocacy? Like, how can they be identified, contacted with or without the help of MLGW or municipal government, so that we can say, hey, this is how we think you can be helped, based on the trends that we're seeing across the community.
I think that these great folk who say they represent you, that ask for your votes, to represent you in city council, they should be concerned about whether or not you have the wherewithal, the insight, the understanding that you need to advocate for yourself. So, I mean, we're going into education here. It's deep. How do you continue to operate in this city when you know that the education piece, the literacy piece, is so paramount to moving the city?
One thing I think, I used to work as a community organizer, and one thing I saw consistently is people do not show up for things or to get information that they really, really need.
But why?
So let me just put it to you like this. If you had a boots on the ground, or if you, I'm being serious with you, or if you had some type of drawing prizes or some type of food or something, you have to draw the community. And I found this to be true. I had my biggest crowd. We did an event and I was able to get people to donate different things. And so I'm like, okay, the first 100 people gets this. I mean, we had all types of donations, toothpaste, this, that, and the other. That was the draw to get them there. A lot of times people do not participate. Like, this room should be full because of the information that you're providing. But people don't really seek out that kind of stuff without some type of draw. It's unfortunate that you have to have a draw, but I found that to be true. Like, unless you have something else other than your information to offer to them, you're not gonna get it. Like, I look at the boots on the ground things and the big turnout for the event, the sister strap here recently, massive crowd.
That's true. Yeah.
When you have something fun mixed with maybe information, so you have to strategize on how to get the community involved, because the information is what you're wanting them here for. But unless there's something else, it's like, and that's I found that to be true. Like I said, I was a community organizer in the Brown Howell through DECA, Volunteer Immigrant Community Association, and my biggest crowds came when there was something else to draw. It's unfortunate that was my truth. That's what I found to work. You have to have something else. Yeah.
Well, you know, these two comments, something I was thinking about, particularly as you talked about advocacy. I really commend you all on the creation of this organization. My concern is, and I think it speaks to both points made, is how do you organize for real power for a constituency who I would say don't care what they care. And
Or they're too busy. Yeah. Mm.
too busy with a lot of other stuff. So it's one thing to let me teach you how to read your bill to advocate for yourself. And the culture of people who have been taught and conditioned all their lives, particularly black folk, to speak in a passive voice, to just trust the process.
Yeah.
And as you was listening, like, you know, do you all, Memphis of us, had the opportunity to I know you, but do you have time to advocate for all the people that I can identify, say, call Glenda and schedule a hearing? That in itself is a budget. That's a whole mobilizing effort just on the advocacy side, number one. Number two, yeah, the city council can do a whole bunch, but they can't either, because if the constituency don't care or don't know, and they are elected by people who don't know and don't care, and they don't know and don't care, we can't organize from a place of power. So I'm much more interested in how do we, to my sister's point, continue to just have these workshops, and those who come show up and build this movement around just basically showing, but then strategically be able to go into places, Guido, and says these are the questions that we need to answer. Because what I hear you saying, Guido, is that we not that it's impossible, but we're in a time where we have to have some kind of power to be able to organize, or we like a net annoying an elephant.
It's 5 minutes past midnight.
But it's not, again, as a preacher, it's not in vain. We gotta always appeal to people for empathy that they care. But we only do is just show up, but we have to continue to figure out in Memphis, you know, how your organization is moving. Because again, when we talk about economic justice, we talk about all these things called equality, you know. How do we build on that movement? I guess that's for you two to kind of determine. Because I said you got other people, you got all these opportunities to talk about it. But this can save folk money annually, right? Number one. Number two, if price gouging is real, then where are the people's money's going? They can fund recreation center. They can fund home, they can fund so many efforts. So this is kind of the corporate welfare thing that we got to really find a way from a policy place to be really kind of strategic. And respectfully, we can't just be all emotional in our place, because we're not going to be able to have real, reasonable, intelligent conversations around what's in the best interest of citizens. So I commend you on such a great workshop. I learned a lot, and the thing is, it opened up a whole bunch of questions for me on how to really build power, as a sister said, to hold folk accountable. But you can't do it on your own if you don't want to advocate or having these hearings. Because I can open the gate, hey, y'all call Glenda Hicks on this number, call them. Dr. Brooks, please, I'm calling them. Because it's one thing, once people know, after you taught them, then you now got to build capacity to be able to follow up. That's the challenge of being a preacher, right? What do you do once you saved, right?
Yeah.
Now you got to walk in this advocacy on your own, but hey, look, it's hard. It's hard. Now you got to do it yourself. So I guess what you got the tools.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think what will help us, if we can make, I said we this time, information packages, clip simple that breaks all some things down. What community association need to know and be able to do as relates to reading their bills and follow up at the next monthly meeting on Memphis and Bus, 21st century. That can build some kind of momentum So I don't know what your strategies are, but I know we kind of talked about it briefly, but this was really good to do this. Did the question, that make any sense?
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully even though not everybody, I've live streamed it, but it's going to be recorded, so then other people will be able to access this in the future, and we can spread at least, that way on our social media, and hopefully other people will share it with the email. But yeah, it's a lot to,
Just got one thing I'd like to add, because I've just observed this just throughout, like when going to a parent-teacher meeting, to the meetings, there's usually like a real low percentage of people that participate in meetings as a whole. Like when you have these meetings, very low percentage. And I was thinking maybe, we could just do some, I'm wondering like if it would have been something like save money on your MLGW bill. Like if that would have attracted more rather than, we're going to show you how to read your bill. Like the save, I'm just saying, would that be a draw? Like you telling me how I can save some money? Okay, I'm all ears because I need to save some money. But people generally don't participate in a lot of things that, I go to, even though it's going to benefit them. They don't show up.
But Glenda and I went back and forth on this date. This is a really busy day. It's Saturday. So I like the title, but here's the thing, right? So because we went back and forth on the time, a lot of stuff, a lot is April, it's Easter, it's a lot of stuff going on this day. And we kind of talked about pushing it back or whatever. We wanted to kind of continue for consistency's sake. I'm glad we kind of really did. It was tough for me because I had to make a point. But you said something that's critical. I think that all we can do is, and what Glenda's been doing is just expose as much as we can, and see who becomes interested. The more and more people know, and I think these things are good because Brenda, we're going to schedule an opportunity for our community association to hear these things, and so that's one way, ma'am, that we can do these things. Like the information, I'm sure Brenda, you can take it back to your your apartments and get those people who didn't know that they can benefit. They don't make $25,000. So I don't know your staff, I don't know your budget, but there are ways.
What budget?
yeah. No, we're volunteers, so.
but see, that gets back to the point.
Yeah.
How are you going to really do this when you don't have a budget?
No, I know.
But after
We
this
would
is
love to
over,
have a budget.
but again, that's the hard
Yeah.
pull and push if we're really serious about this kind of work.
Right.
You can't be volunteer because, as she said,
It's essential.
out of sight,
Yeah.
not out of sight. I don't have time to be reading no MLG. You just trust the process.
Right.
You just let it go. I ain't got time with it. I'm busy. But now, she didn't force me to stop and have to assess and analyze not only about MLG for the church, MLG for the
For your home.
mine,
Yeah.
and then for Brenda's and all the membership. I ain't need that, but it's very needed, right? It's part of the salvation story, part of the liberation story, right? So, and then I can speak to this and train other clergy to kind of do the same workshop. So it's not in vain. This is how we go about doing it. So I would strongly recommend you all start working on a strategic plan with a budget. No, really, because we can't say that it's a major need if we don't organize the field capacity. People say the dogs, say the whales,
This is
say
true.
whatever, This is how you stand up. You can't undergird it with the organized money and the organized people, because you know what, MLG, the city ain't gonna create no way to educate people on the stuff you're talking about.
They should. They should.
And how we not gonna go say, look, y'all got all this money saved a penny. We want it for the last 16 years. You know how to do it. We know to do it. But where they gonna put it, right? And based on what you're saying, that can be over $1 million, right?
Yeah, apparently it goes to weatherization. Certain people, you can apply for it.
But we can easily evaluate that.
Right.
Yes.
And for the last few years, who got the who got the weatherproof.
And how well was it done? Because there were some complaints. Yes,
Exactly.
by the company
TPA
that
has a
received it.
program,
Yes.
That they will come in and replace your HVAC system
Yes.
based on your income. If you ain't got no money,
Right.
I mean, you damn near pay nothing.
But the thing about that, if you look at what they're wanting you to sign, there's that whole
Your whole
harmless,
life.
that
Yeah.
whole harmless paragraph in there.
Yes.
That I said, oh, no,
Oh, you
sir,
saw
no,
that?
ma'am.
What
Oh,
they
yes,
want-
I
They
did.
want your house?
Oh, they're not liable for anything. They don't wanna be liable for any, it's number 6 on that little TV.
So do you have that? Do you have
Oh,
that?
I don't have it
Oh,
here
wow.
now, I can email it to you.
Please.
But that was the reason that because you didn't have to be a homeowner, like my daughter owns my home.
Correct.
So you didn't have to be a homeowner, but you had to get the
And
approval
Of the homeowner.
Right, and when I read paragraph number 6, I'm like, I got a whole new harmless for anything and everything that you do?
Wait, say that again, you got a whole who?
Oh, them.
TVA.
Right, like.
See,
if they-
so they're
if
getting
they, you know,
that
want
contract.
stuff up,
They're
right.
getting the contractor to
Yeah.
come in and do the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So it's like you hold the contractor harmless and you
What's
hold
All of the
TVA.
whole deal, the
Yes.
whole, and I'm
So
like,
your house burned up because of the,
no liability.
Right. No liability.
That's not enforceable.
No liability.
It's not.
Well, yeah, and then there's.
But how do they even have it in the contract?
Because they're trying to protect themselves.
No, but if it's not enforceable, then how do you?
You can
Take them to
challenge
the
it.
U.S.
Yeah,
District Court.
that's not really enforceable.
That's not enforceable.
Hmm.
That's impossible.
Well, that's good to know.
Because they would have to, if they're going to be utilizing people they have to be certified and bonded.
Oh, they'll be certified and bonded.
But they-
But when they
they
put that
also-
clause in there, because they're not the only ones that are using that clause in this day and time.
Exactly.
So you're saying that, but everything I almost come across has that clause in it.
But it's true. It's probably not enforceable,
Yeah.
especially if
But
it's
to litigate it, you gotta get an attorney.
See,
right.
this is
But then you would have to, yeah.
So what's the strategy?
You got a legal defense fund from the 21st century.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
And maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of what?
Technology's changed a lot in that space.
Yeah,
In
well,
what space?
Litigation.
yeah, but
But see, now, here you go with that.
That's a
And
process.
what did we just say?
That's a
Illiterate.
Well, but I'm saying, I'm not a lawyer.
The average.
I know,
individual-
but I'm saying,
Yeah.
we're sitting in this room, but what the average,
The problem, look, let me tell you, I've worked for attorneys since 1986. I have filed 2 discrimination lawsuits against law firms as a pro se plaintiff. And glory to God, I was successful.
Wow.
But for the average individual,
yes.
because the first hurdle was EEOC.
Yes.
EEOC did not even want to entertain it. And you have to, that's the prerequisite. You have to go through EEOC.
Mhm.
I had to first fight EEOC.
Because
And
they
then
didn't want to
with
do
my
their
90-day
job.
right to sue letter, I had to first fight. They did not. They said, now, if you can find somebody else who's going through the exact same thing that you're going through, then you might be able to
Check
proceed
this,
with
so
your.
you gotta do all the
And
layers.
that's more challenging in states in Tennessee.
And you're talking to the average individual doing that? What I had to my advantage is having worked for attorneys in
Yes.
1986,
Yes.
and I was kind of aware of the process.
Right.
And I was going to fight tooth and nail, even if I had to fight beyond my grave, I was leaving instructions. I was done. No, serious. You thought they kind of late.
I gotcha.
But saying that to say this, like, as far as it being enforceable, the average person has to get an attorney, and then the attorney gonna try to jack you up.
Yeah.
With the, cause I'm like, every time I see a Morgan & Morgan commercial, I have to turn the channel. Because they're
You've
getting,
been running from all these years, that's terrible.
they're getting 40 to 50% of your
Sure.
settlement.
Yeah.
You got
That's right.
hurt, right?
40%,
Yeah.
50%.
Yeah,
But you
45.
the one that got hurt, right?
Mm.
But they're getting that, and then they want to have an investigator. They want you to pay extra for the investigator. So at the end of the day, they're getting paid
Yeah,
for your
big time,
injury.
Yes.
big time.
To represent you.
Unjust enrichment.
Hey, I'm gonna cut the live stream for this just so we can keep. But Thank you so much, Glenda, for this.
Thank you.
And anybody has any questions, please do reach out to us. And thank you for tuning in.